Hi, everyone. This is Christopher R. Jones, and welcome to another episode of the Authentic Leader Show, the podcast for transforming today's managers into tomorrow's leaders of high-performing teams. Now, today's episode, it's a powerful one. I'm joined by Mindy Flanigan, who brings really thoughtful perspective on emotional awareness, accountability, and the kind of leader that doesn't just get results, but they also build trust along the way. We get into what it means to lead with patience and clarity, how to create alignment between your culture and your people, and why the best HR leaders don't micromanage. They empower. And if you're developing new managers or trying to reduce surprises during performance reviews, Mindy drops some advice that you'll want to write down. Well, let's get right into this interview. Today, we have an inspiring guest, Mindy Flanigan, who has dedicated her career to simplifying HR for small businesses. Now, Mindy is the Chief Inspiration Officer at Inspiring HR LLC, all right? And in 2007, she founded Inspiring HR with a focus on simplifying HR down and adding value to personalized solutions for small businesses. Now, I interviewed Mindy way back when I had season 1 of the Authentic Leader Show, and that was episode 33.
Wait, what season are we in?
This is season 2 now.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, very excited about that. And the title of that episode 33 was called Fixing Holes in Your Business. I don't know if you remember that, Mindy. But Mindy, it's just great to have you on the show again.
Thank you, Chris. I always love spending time with you. You're such a good guy.
Yeah, we were just talking about how easy it is for each of us. Just whenever we talk, and the conversation is easy. We're talking about great topics. You always provide energy. There are some people who don't provide me energy when I talk to them. You always provide energy for me. The first question in thinking about our interview here today is, what is one leadership lesson that has shaped your journey the most?
Emotional, and I hate to repurpose emotional intelligence. It's almost like emotional awareness, particularly as a small business owner where you're chief brand ambassador and this is your baby. It's almost like I have one actual kid. Well, 4 if you count the fur babies. But I consider Inspiring HR one of my kids because I built it from the ground up since 2007 to now. Hired staff along the way, most of whom, lucky enough, they're still with me. One thing I've learned as of late, and maybe it's like an instinct that grew over a period of time and maturing and discipline, is something I wish a lot of people would start to relearn, and that sometimes the quiet parts in your head need to stay quiet. You are going to have days where something landed wrong, or you didn't sleep well, or you're out of patience, or you're anxious to cross a finish line, but everybody else wants to vote by committee or talk it through or whiteboard it out. Yet you've got this long list. It's small business leadership, I feel like, is a test in patience for sure. Particularly when you have 2 sides of your brain, the part of your brain that's anxious to cross finish lines and keep moving forward, and the leadership part of my brain where I am a caretaker and I want to keep everybody engaged and feeling heard and a part of the culture. And to achieve that, even though you might be impatient or having temporary, not so nice thoughts in your head, that doesn't mean you say them.
Yeah. And I love how you talk about leadership using the word caregiver. And I think that very much aligns with your title, which is the Chief Inspiration Officer. And I think that the best leaders are those who recognize that they are caregivers for their team, and they're there to really support their team and provide them the resources that they need to succeed and even excel.
And I think what people get wrong with caregiver, at least in the work world, is, and Kim Sink on our team says it best, 2 things can be true at the same time. You can be a caregiver and still have the courage to have conversations and do what really sometimes a leader is called on to do. Convince the people that they can't do something that they can when you give them the right tools and you set them up for success. So being a caregiver does not mean you don't have tough conversations. Being a caregiver does not mean that you have to make tough calls sometimes. But if in general you've built a culture where everyone feels cared for and heard, it's a lot easier to push those people to bring out their best in your work environment.
Well, I even go so far as to say that if you are having those difficult conversations, that is showing you care. I mean,
Right.
if you didn't care about their success, you would maybe let it go or let them continue to fail or let them end up doing such a terrible job that they need to leave the organization. No, I care about you enough to help you to succeed, and you can't do that without that feedback.
Yeah, you know what? There's a time that happens for the people that won't have hard conversations. You know when that is? When you did things wrong all year long and nobody tells you until your annual review,
Uh-huh.
which I know is
Well,
a pet peeve of yours.
yeah, it is a big one of mine. There should be no surprises at that annual performance review. None
Still
at all.
happens, Chris. Still
Uh,
happens.
Believe me, it happened throughout my career. It happened to me personally, and I'm doing all I can to help others to not have to go through that same thing.
Hmm.
Well, another question I've got for you is you lead, of course, a team of HR professionals. How do you ensure that they stay aligned to the culture that you want to create for your team?
Everybody's always had, as we matured as a team and kept growing, um, you hit these milestones or these junctures where just like even why people call us for help, you'll hit these miles and junctures or pain points or even a gut check where something needs to be buttoned up or fixed or repackaged, or we've just hit a new chapter of the business. And that new chapter for us was our first exercise in core values.
Hmm.
And then that made us more disciplined with a vision statement. And I credit in part our marketing team for helping us get there, where it was more than just a logo. It was a culture where we were trying to build a brand, and build a brand trickles down to what it says about your workplace and the culture and how you're going to rally the troops. It's one thing to have a marketing message out there where um, you have, in our case, small business owners that need or want HR support. But I have to inspire them to want to do more than just write a check for peace of mind. We want them to be a part of our HR Done Differently journey. So marketing message year over year continues to fine tune in a manner of people who think they might want HR support saying, I want to be a part of that. I just don't want HR support or HR consulting services. I want to be a part of that because they speak to me in a way that adds value to how I want to operate my business. And I compare that to culture often because it's the same with attracting new talent and getting them to stay. Where that at the end of the day, the simple way to state it is I want to be a part of that. It's more than just a paycheck. It's a place where I know I can, for us, it's, work life balance, leaderships that push me to improve, a business that cares about me and my outcomes as a professional, but also knows that I have a family and a personal life where this all kind of blends together. It's just the reality of a modern day workplace. So, what was the original question? Now I get into marketing and HR stuff.
No, it's all great. I mean, it's all about culture, right? And how do you
Culture.
make sure that your team
Yeah.
stays aligned to that culture that you
Yeah.
want to create? So I
And
think that
you
that's
know what I
great.
do? I liken it to the trickle down theory. Like I think trickle down always happens in culture is that whatever the top line leaders are doing, whether they think they're hiding it or not, it does trickle down to employee decision making and employee conduct. But I see a trickle down too from marketing, right? Through marketing, you tell the public world who you are, what you do, what you can help them with. But that's still, if you're going to run authentically as a company, like how I inserted authentic there, um, your private side of the business is really no different than what you're telling the public you are. So that's where, and to answer your question, where we got disciplined enough to pair together a vision statement, a mission statement, and core values that we tell the public about all the time. But it really is how we operate day to day. That's how I keep everybody on the same page.
What advice do you have for leaders who want to really create a workplace where employees are thriving and they remain engaged with the organization?
Transparency, transparency, transparency. I know you think you need to know everything. You absolutely do not. In fact, I am willing to bet that if you have put the right people in the right seats, they don't expect you to know everything either. Really, a modern day workplace right now is meeting people where they are, understanding who you've hired too, understanding where they are in their journey. Are they green? Are they medium? Are they excel at an exceptional level? But how does that all fit into the recipe of what makes your workplace work? But um, if you pretending that you know everything and you have all the answers, when I've yet to find somebody who has all the answers, and I don't even want all the answers. People will actually collaborate and rally around you more when you admit you don't have all the answers and you need help. That's one.
Yeah.
And assuring them along the way that if we've hit a rocky patch, it's because all of us didn't have the answers, but we're going to find how to fix this together. It's
Mhm.
very much a journey and a meeting of the minds for everybody that's on the team.
Mhm.
And that's why, on top of that, the need for transparency. I'm really, really starting to lose patience with this thinking that I, as a leader, have all the answers, and I've hired children that I need to micromanage and control all the time. And by the way, they can't know our numbers. Why can't they know the numbers? Why can't they know how you make money?
Yeah.
um I'm not saying you have to show them your pay stub or get them into the weeds on the balance sheet, but there are top line numbers I believe in sharing with employees and explaining it to them on a quarterly or semi-annual basis, because it helps them connect the dots on where their job fits.
People do need to know where they fit. When you talk about managers and leaders not needing to know exactly how to do everything, that's one of, I should say one of, because I have multiple key reasons that I failed in my first manager job, because I felt like, and at that time I understood that that's what I thought that management was. You had to be the one who had all the answers. And guess what? My entire team knew I didn't have all the answers, and they were all sitting there waiting for me to ask for their help. And
Right.
I think that every team is sitting there not expecting a manager to know everything. Just ask for help. We want to help you, but we can't maybe feel comfortable coming to you, or maybe not create a culture where it's
Right.
safe to come to you and
Right.
say, "Hey, can I help you with that?" It's your
What's
job as the
interesting
manager
too,
to
when
make
you
that culture.
ask for help when you're new to a role, it creates a roadmap for a forever improving line of delegation. Where
Yeah.
when you get into this cadence with employees of asking for help, at some point it's going to be delegating. And by then you have built up a relationship, you understand each other's communication styles and preferences, and then it's much easier to delegate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of delegate, I'd like to ask you a question about the accountability part of that. How can HR leaders help to build a culture of accountability without micromanaging?
So to hold people accountable, you need an underlying infrastructure and everybody needs to understand it. So start there. If everybody needs to understand it, do not overblow it. Make it simple.
Mhm.
Um, a job posting is not good enough for a job description. If you want accountability, you actually really do need a job description, and they are multi-purpose.
Okay.
But back to the point of core values, and one of the learns we've had over the last couple of years is in this journey of putting the right people in the right seats so accountability can be a reality in your organization. If you've bothered to find core values that are important for your culture, I bet you can turn those into required soft skills to be able to
Mhm.
be hired for the company, right? So this is what I mean about weaving who you are into the fabric of your people management infrastructure. You
Yeah.
start doing that, and you've got well-informed job descriptions, you can then start to put together what's called an accountability chart, not an org chart, an accountability chart. And
Mhm.
this all is helpful in your pursuit of the right people in the right seats. And this is actually where a good modern day HR function, HR team, HR consultant, whatever you choose that's right for your organization, can help you make that pivot from traditional hierarchical org chart with outdated job descriptions or job postings we call job descriptions, to actual multi-purpose useful job descriptions that frontline managers and hiring managers depend on, that pair to an accountability chart. And now the next conversation can be, great, now we can really define expected outcomes, timelines, and all of these roll up to quarterly projects and initiatives that eventually land us on hitting our annual goals.
If there is one thing that our listeners could do today to improve their HR function, what would that one thing be?
Though, you know what the one thing is? I'll pull another quote from Kim Sink on our team. Do you ever work with somebody on your team that they have like the great taglines all the time and then
Yeah.
they just stick?
Yeah.
Here's advice: ask instead of assume. And what I mean by ask instead of assume with HR, particularly if you're a small business leader with less than 50 employees and you don't have a defined internal HR role, nor should you really. I maybe part-time. I don't, it depends on whether, how complex your business is, but let's just say small business leader with less than 25 employees. I'm willing to bet you don't have a full-time HR person.
Yeah.
Please don't assume that your controller or your office admin catch-all or the person that you asked to do payroll one time all of a sudden became an HR expert overnight that knows exactly what to even search for on Google to start to build up your people management infrastructure. They might, but why assume it? Don't you want to ask? Ask A, are you interested in doing that? And B, do you have the tools you need to be able to do that within your scope of work? And if you don't, let's figure out whether or not we need help or we need to give you the tools and resources to be successful in even a part-time HR capacity as a part of your job responsibilities. The other part of ask instead of assume, and I've learned this myself, even as an HR leader who's been at this since 1993. And this is why, when I heard ask versus assume, it just resonated all over the place for me. Group health benefits are an expensive, mind-boggling journey and an investment for small business owners. I myself experienced this. We've forever operated with, this is the group health plan I'm going with because my broker said so. Nothing against brokers, but I don't think they know your employees as well as you know the employees. Before you keep writing that check for the group health insurance plan, have you asked your employees what are important features of a group health insurance plan so that you can tell your broker things before, like this, before annual enrollment? I don't know if this is still the plan that works for us. I've bothered to ask my employees about how best to spend our benefits budget. And if it's possible, maybe we should look at other plans that would give us these things instead of those things. So if you just ask instead of assuming, I think you're going to end up a lot more informed on what direction the everything within your business is heading.
Right. When we talk about health benefits, there's a key word, those two key words, of course, but a key one you're talking about here is the benefits part. And if it's the benefits, the employees need to feel like they're benefiting from
Right.
this benefit. And if it
Right.
feels like it's not aligned with what their needs are, it no longer is really a benefit to them.
Right.
So yeah, just asking and learning and take that data to your broker. And
Yeah.
I would imagine most brokers would love to have data that supports, oh, this is why this recommendation actually does fit your needs, not only for
Right.
your business, but for your team.
Right. Another
But
example of ask instead of assume. Did they want that manager job because they want to lead people, or do they want that manager job because they wanted more money?
I think it's fantastic when you can learn from especially those star performers, right? Where they are assumed because they're a star performer now that they will, of course, be a star performer as a manager as well. And you and I both know that those are not completely transferable skills. As a matter of fact, many of the skills are completely vacant when you are a
Mhm.
star performer. And now
Mhm.
they're having to figure out these new skills as a manager.
Right.
So when you do become that manager, I think that it's important to really embrace the fact that you are a manager and how to manage the team, but really then to transform into being from being a manager to being a high performing leader. What does it take for a manager to transform from being a manager to then becoming a high performing leader?
Well, this is actually where I might throw the question back to you because I, as an HR professional, know all about old school to present, define what the job is, and ask behavior based interview questions that lead you to believe this is a right fit for the job, whether it's a leader or not. So, if you're promoting from within, what are those behavior based questions you're asking of that individual before you promote them to demonstrate that they have the skills to immediately be effective as a leader or they have the potential to eventually be effective as a leader according to your company values and standards? So, I don't know. I defer back to you. Is there some magic pill out there or magic test out there that would give me a yes or no? This person's worth promoting?
Well, I think that there is, but like a lot of things, I think it's simple but not easy. And
Okay.
I think that it all starts well before they become a manager. My encouragement to managers of teams is, especially managers of other managers, is that you should be meeting regularly one-on-one anyway,
Oh,
right, with them.
yeah.
And in that conversation, at times, not every single time, but at times, we should be talking about what are your career aspirations. And if there's an indication that they have a future career aspiration for management, well, perhaps it would be a great time to strategically delegate to those high performers some management type of functions before that promotion so
Right.
that they have a chance to really demonstrate and even experience it before formally being promoted.
Right.
Because I think one
Yeah.
of the biggest crimes, and I'm sure you've seen this before, Mindy, is that the star performer gets promoted and they end up finding out something very different, or they end up totally failing. Now they end up leaving the organization. Now you
Mhm.
have a vacant manager job and you have a vacant high
I
performing
know.
role.
It's terrible. It's
You
a
have
double
two roles.
whammy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Terrible.
double whammy. So
Yeah.
it's all about just being strategic and using strategic delegation and giving people the opportunity to experience some of those manager functions before that promotion. I think is really key, and that's probably one of your greatest indicators. And when things don't go right, then that's great. It's a low risk, and you can debrief that. And okay, let's try something a little different next time. What did you learn
Mhm.
from it? What will you do
Yeah.
differently?
Yeah,
That's
and to
kind of my
your
answer.
point, back to the point of the one-to-ones, what are we talking about during those one-to-ones that tie to the annual development plan we agreed to at the beginning of each anniversary period? So the annual development plan for us has been the way to, I don't want to say kill the annual review, but I would just assume kill the annual review.
Hmm.
But this is more of a reframing of the annual review, where
Yeah.
it's far less time reflecting on the past and a lot more time building mutual collaboration and agreement between leader and employee to achieve XYZ things in the next 12 months. And to your point, right, if you think they've got management potential because they've told you that earlier and they're interested, what are you depositing on that annual development plan year over year to eventually get them to a place that they are equipped to be promoted and are ready for it and want it?
Listeners of this podcast, they can connect with you if they go to your website, which is inspiringhr.com.
Yep.
I know you're also on LinkedIn, also at
Mhm.
Inspiring HR, and
Correct.
you're also on YouTube.
Yes, Inspiring HR has a YouTube channel. I'm
Yes.
hoping it will look much different between now and the end of the year because we have just contracted with a video marketing company to help us take a lot of content that we have that hasn't made it onto the YouTube channel yet. So we're really looking forward to achieving that this year. But I am very active on LinkedIn. And if you go to our website and fill out our contact us form, myself or Valerie Juarez will likely get back to you same day, if not next day, depending on timing of that submission. And if you're serious about considering our services, first 45 minutes always free.
We'll make sure that everyone has links to this in the show notes page as well. If you enjoyed this interview, please make sure you subscribe to the Authentic Leader Show and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or really wherever you listen to podcasts. And I just want to thank you, Mindy, for joining us today.
No, it's my I love doing this follow up. It's I can't believe it's been since 2019. Fantastic. I appreciate the opportunity.
I hope you caught the theme that kept resurfacing. Real leadership requires clarity, trust, and courage to have the hard conversations before they become performance issues. Now, Mindy reminds us that leadership isn't about knowing all of the answers. And of course, I know that all too well. It's about asking, listening, and providing the structure your team needs to succeed. And I'll add this: when you create a team that can self manage, you free yourself up to lead strategically, not just reactively. If you found value in today's episode, take a second to follow the show and to share it with a colleague who's ready to lead more authentically. I'd love to connect with you. You can find me on LinkedIn at I am Christopher Jones, or email me your leadership questions at chris@christopherrjones.com. I'm planning future episodes where I take your leadership questions. I'm getting a group of new managers together in May 2025 to transform former individual contributors into high-performing leaders. If you have any new managers on your team who this would be useful for, email me at chris@christopherrjones.com to see if what we're doing in May is a fit for them. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you next time on the Authentic Leader Show.